Hey guys, we are on episode number, 21, I think now. We're on episode 21 of Daily Thoughts with David. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about Joe Biden's visit to Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. He had a speech early this morning, essentially about the relations between the United States of America and Russia. And from what I can tell you, it was not very good for either party involved. So before we get into it, if you guys would, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel and press the notification bell if you would. We're going to be doing more videos every single day. I did take a little bit of a break over the weekend and yesterday because it's been a lot of work going on here recently and a lot of stuff going on in the world. So I took yesterday off, but I'm going to do a video on this, which is going to be mostly politics, and then I'm going to do another video, which will come out tomorrow morning, which is mostly going to be on my hobbies, which will be talking about UFC. I'm a big UFC fan, maybe talking about crypto and financial markets, and then possibly maybe some gaming or something like that. So anyway, let's talk about Biden visiting Ukraine. I've heard a lot of takes on this here in the past couple days from a lot of different people. My take, my biggest problem with it was, I have a couple problems with it. The first one is that there is a big ecological disaster that's happening right now in Ohio, in East Palestine, Ohio. We've talked about this earlier on the channel. Specifically, I think 2 or 3 videos ago, we were talking about East Palestine and the things that are going on there. The EPA is just now responding to it. Mayor Pete is just now saying that he's going to show up, 2 or 3 weeks later. The EPA finally has basically demanded of Norfolk Southern to go and clean up this mess that they've made, essentially. But the problem is that Biden going to the Ukraine versus going to East Palestine. My biggest problem with that is that I understand that there is a war going on, and we are helping to support that war. But there are American citizens, specifically right now, that are really, really hurting all across the country. And it does not show a lot of good faith towards citizens and voters in general when you're off in another country, especially on President's Day, taking care of other issues that a lot of them don't believe are our problem. And I've heard a lot of takes here recently about the Ukraine war, and that it is kind of, I've heard it's a bargain. Ben Shapiro said today that it was a bargain that we are in Ukraine and able to disable one of our biggest threats in the country, or in the world, in Russia, by being able to use this proxy state, basically, which is Ukraine, in order to grind the Russian military down. I understand that. I totally get that, and I agree in that sense that it is a bargain. However, there wasn't any conflict between Russia before this. We had the Cold War, things had kind of cooled off, the economies of the world had kind of congealed into this globalization, and now I'm no big fan of globalization, because obviously when bad things happen, like Ukraine wars, like COVID-19, like things like that, there tends to be a pretty severe backlash getting things from one part of the world to another. And that's still the case nowadays. I think in general, we need to be very, very wary of globalization. However, there wasn't a conflict with Russia before, and if we were thinking that Russia was our main enemy, which I don't think they are, I think China's a bigger threat. I really think we have to think about, what are we spending in dollar amounts to put Russia into this situation. Russia's kind of already on its own last leg as it is. It's kind of a dying country, and there's not a lot of people there that are really. Russia is not a place that people are moving to because of the economic or the prospects there, or the great things that are happening, or the freedom that they're being allowed in Russia, right? So Russia being a threat, I'm not sure if that's necessarily true. I don't know if that's actually true, because from what a lot of the things that I have seen, I don't think Russia is the big threat. Like I said, I think China is, and so I do understand the case that there needs to be retaliation against Russia, and there needs to be a bulwark there so that he doesn't, Vladimir Putin doesn't invade Poland and other countries in that area. However, the the signal that sends to constituents and to voters when you are in East Palestine, you're not in East Palestine, Ohio, even though people have been calling for you to show up and to give some support to these people, but you show up in the middle of nowhere. No one tells anybody that, obviously apparently the Russians were told before anybody else. It's a surprise visit to the Ukraine. And then there were air raid sirens that went off during his visit, but only when he was there walking through the capital. So it just seems like a giant fake operation of epic proportions that we're sending all this money over there, and it's a giant political psyop in my opinion. And that may be pretty conspiratorial, but I'm not a big fan of the war in Ukraine. I'm not a big fan of sending money over there, to be honest with you. I think NATO and the other allies over there could probably help Ukraine, take care of this problem without U.S. intervention, because what we're getting into a situation where China and Russia are going to be teaming up now against the United States and Ukraine and NATO. And now we're forming this giant alliance versus Axis situation again, similar to what we had in World War II. And it seems like we're just walking down this path to world war. So you really have to ask yourself, is the only two solutions that we have sponsor Ukraine and prevent them from being taken over completely, and edge ourselves towards World War III and possibly nuclear Armageddon, or do we let the Ukraine go and let Russia roll over them, and then they invade Poland or something like that? I don't know, and I'm not a military strategist, but it seems like these are not great options for the United States of America. And if there is a world war that people are just egging on or trying to get going, that I don't think anyone would be in favor of that. I don't even think Vladimir Putin is in favor of a world war, right? I think he thought he was just going to go through Ukraine and smash people, smash their entire resistance, and then from there, he could take the Donbass region and the rest of Ukraine for that matter, and be able to protect himself. I don't know if he would go on to Poland. People keep saying he's going to go on to Poland and do worse things there, and Poland is obviously a NATO member, so it would be different for that. But I don't know. I don't think Putin would be dumb enough in order to attack a NATO member, because I think he knows that there would be retaliation. Ukraine was not a NATO member, so is the juice worth the squeeze? Is going through this Ukrainian war in order to tire out Russia's army and military force really the situation we want to be in? Is there a conflict against Russia that is inevitable, and therefore this is a good deal, as some people have said, in order to do this, and we don't have to spend any U.S. lives, and it's all Ukraine and their people doing it? I don't know. I honestly don't know. That's not for me to say. I will say that in my opinion, I think it's a bad idea. However, the message that it sends to the people in East Palestine, who are really, really needing the help right now and needing strength after a corporation basically wrecked their lives and destroyed their livelihoods, it sends a bad message. It sends a really bad message. And so I think it was probably an ill-guided trip over there, and I don't think it was very, very prudent. So that's my opinion on the matter. I've heard opinions from all different kinds of people on this situation, so it's kind of an interesting one. Okay, so Putin, because of all of this stuff that's happened, and Biden and his visit over there, Putin came out this morning in a pretty long speech. It was kind of like a State of the Union or a State of the State speech, where he basically withdrew from all of the nuclear treaties between the United States and Russia. And these were founded originally, I believe, in the 80s with Reagan, and then Bush 1 signed these into effect, and they were re-upped in 2011 and 2021. He has pulled out of those accords now. And I think he's going to be going through nuclear weapon research again, and kind of reactivating some of their arsenal. They've also started to reactivate some of their nuclear warheads, nuclear submarines, nuclear aircraft carriers are now out of dock. So they're going to full combat nuclear readiness, which is a situation that I never thought I would see in my lifetime. But this is the logical conclusion, or the logical next step of what happens when two nuclear superpowers are not getting along with each other. And when you have rhetoric, and when you supply hundreds of billions of dollars to Russia's target, which is Ukraine, this is what's going to happen. So this is a very complicated situation, and the nuance behind it, I think, is lost by a lot of people. I fully understand that the Ukrainians need to be defended. I fully understand that, Russia is a big threat to us and has been a big threat to us. And in the 20th century is probably one of the biggest threats, if not the biggest threat in the 20th century to the United States of America. Soviet power was for sure, the USSR. Communism in general is in general, I think, antithetical to the American dream and to the United States government. But, is this our fight? If there's going to be a war regardless, if we're going to have to fight Russia regardless of what happens, if they take Ukraine, if they take whoever, we're going to have to fight them. Maybe this is a good idea to kind of wear them out on the Ukrainian front and see what they can do and kind of grind down their military. And then maybe the U.S. comes in and wipes them all out in the end. The problem is they have 5,900 plus nuclear warheads. We have 5,500 nuclear warheads. Not that at that point it really matters who has more, because everything will be gone anyway. But I just feel like there's a different answer to this situation than, oh, well, we're going to have to fight the Russians anyway, so the only way to do this and get this all hashed out is nuclear Armageddon. I just find that really hard to believe. And I feel for the Ukrainian people. I started following the war as soon as it happened, almost a year ago. In 3 days, it'll be a year. I was very, very empathetic to their cause and to the deaths and to all of the things that they were going through. But they're not United States citizens, and our money is going over there that we don't have. We're already in massive amounts of debt. That money's going over there to fight this war effort. And if it's a war that's not needed, maybe it's not in our best interest to be sending money over there. Because of this speech that Putin has put forward about the START treaties and New START treaties and all this kind of stuff, Tony Blinken, one of our ambassadors, has also said that if China were to help Russia in this fight, that it could be the start of World War III, or it is the start of World War III. And so it was also announced today that President Xi Jinping is going to be going over to Moscow here fairly soon in order to have discussions with Moscow. So it looks like we are marching headfirst into World War III, and the anti-war party, the Democrats, seem to be the ones that are trying to get us into it. So to be quite honest with you, it seems like a giant shit show, and man, I don't know what else to say other than this is not the way to do this. I was hoping that diplomacy could at least be explored, and I've heard multiple reports where the United States of America has blocked diplomatic ties between Russia and Ukraine, or a peace treaty between Russia and Ukraine that could have solved this conflict in a peaceful way. I don't know if those are true. Those are reports. You never know with the news these days. But it just seems like we are doing everything we possibly can in order to not have peace. And at some point we have to ask ourselves, is this just the end? Are we just inevitably going to just nuke each other, and this is the end of human civilization as we know it? This is the end of globalization. This is the end of the world. Because I don't think that's the case. I think there probably is a middle ground here, maybe, where the USSR and Ukraine can live on, and the United States and China and NATO and Russia don't have to go to nuclear war. But I don't know. You guys let me know. This is a nuanced subject, so I would like responses at least that are semi-nuanced and not just, oh, Putin bad, blah 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 blah. I see that a lot on social media. Of this is one view to think about it. This is another view to think about it. But there's a lot of moving factors here, so I think that there has to be a serious discussion about each of the moving factors and what this means. What are we losing? What are we gaining? What does the future look like for each one of these countries? What does the future look like for Russia? What does the future look like for the United States? What does the future look like for China? What does the future look like for the Ukrainian people and NATO and Poland and all those things? And we're not having those discussions on social media. We're not having those discussions on the news channels. It's all bullshit. So anyway, that's my view. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think. I really appreciate your thought. I'm not trying to piss anybody off either way politically. I'm just trying to look for more answers and more comments that we can talk about this on, and hopefully find a solution to this that I'm sure our politicians won't listen to us, but maybe it'll help inspire them to bring some peace before all the rest of us people out here who are just trying to get by get nuked into oblivion, or are drafted into a European war that we didn't want, or God knows what. So anyway, leave your comment below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. The Twitter that I'm using is Colma63eth. My Rumble, which I'm putting this up on Rumble also, YouTube and Rumble both get the same video at the same time. My Rumble is David Coleman 27, my YouTube is David Coleman, and my Instagram is David Coleman YT. So thank you guys so much for watching. The next video is going to come out tomorrow morning, and that's going to be on the UFC and some other hobby stuff to get off the political realm for a while. I'm kind of burned out on politics for a while after seeing all this BS. So thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.